afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you here this afternoon to Life Outreach Church. We have a couple of guests with us this afternoon, Kim Weiler from Fe Viva Ministries and Terry Severson from Christ the Healer Church in Saskatoon. Terry is a part of the Fe Viva board that Kim and Lynn Wheeler have a ministry in Guatemala, in Chicamalia. And we're just here this afternoon to do a little bit of an interview with Kim here and have Terry interject along the way with the ministry of Fe Viva. So we want to welcome you gentlemen here this afternoon.
Well, thank you for having us, and great to be here.
And I'd like you just maybe, Kim, if you can just share with the audience out there today a little bit of an overview of Fe Viva Ministries, how you got involved, and kind of bring us up to the present as to what's going on down in Guatemala right now and things that you want to share that would be appropriate for the listening audience out there.
All right, I'd love to. It's unprecedented times. You know, we've done full-time missions in Central America and Guatemala for over 25 years and over 30 years altogether. But we see things all the time. 2 years ago, the volcano erupted, created massive things. We've seen hurricanes, multiple hurricanes, earthquakes, flooding, you name it, over the years. And now it's this virus thing, which is unprecedented around the world. And it's creating a lot of issues, a lot of problems. And I don't want to get into that, should it be locked down and whatnot, but really share about what it's causing and how can we be a part of that? How can we help in that, you know? And just before I really share a bit, you know, we really appreciate Pastor Perry and his wife in this church. They're partners with Fe Viva. You guys have supported us. You've been down a couple times already, and you guys have been awesome. You know, so we appreciate that. And so you've also kind of put your money where your mouth is. You've supported us. You've been an advocate in getting others to come and help in special times and needs. So thank you. And Pastor Terry, he's been on our board for many years now, and he's been a real blessing in their church in Assiniboia, and then he's moved up here and he's taken over this ministry here in Saskatoon, and he's really caused it to grow a great deal, and he's been a huge supporter and advocate for us as well. So I'm amongst good company, guys. I appreciate you guys so much. And to me, that's the true heart of God. True unity is like this, working together for the one sake, for the gospel and the kingdom of God. Amen? But to answer your question, Pastor Perry, is, you know, Fe Viva is a very diverse ministry. We've worked for many years. In fact, the first calling was to pastor pastors. And so we started a Bible school. It's been going now for over 25 years. And it's been a huge blessing. It's one of the cornerstones of our ministry, is teaching and training leaders to go out into all the world. And so we continue to do that through not just the Bible school, but through regular monthly seminars for leaders, for pastors. We have guest speakers that come all over the world to come for these guys. Another area of ministry that's been with us for a long time is children's ministry. God's heart is for the children. There's no doubt about it. The ones who are orphaned, the ones who are destitute, abandoned, abused. And so very quickly on, we started to work with children. Then God basically gave me a word. And maybe I should share this. It's not something I was planning to, but I'll share this. I don't share it very often. I came home one day in Guatemala from a ministry. We were out ministering, and I witnessed some huge abuses to children. Some of these kids were abandoned, living on the streets, and we're talking 5, 6, 7-year-old kids living on their own on the streets, and they were hungry, naked, dirty, I mean, you name it, abused sexually, abused physically by people. And my heart broke, I got angry. I really got angry. Not at God, not so much at God, but just angry. It's like, this is not right. This shouldn't be, you know. And there's thousands of them, you know, not just one or two. and millions around the world. And we did a lot of ministry and help with these kids, but this time it was like, that's not enough. And I was sitting under a mango tree in Guatemala on our property, and you guys have been there, right? So we have lots of mango trees.
Yeah.
And so we sometimes during mango season, you have to kind of watch that the mangoes don't land on your head, right? And I'm sitting under this mango tree, and I'm talking to God, and I guess I did get a little bit angry at God, because I yelled out to him. I talked to him out loud, right? And I basically said, God, why isn't anybody doing anything for these kids? And I turned around, and this voice, booming voice, came out of the mango tree. I mean, literally, I could hear it audibly. And he says, because you haven't done anything about it yet. So where I kind of question God, why isn't he doing anything about it? He turned it around and he says, it's because you aren't doing what you're supposed to do. And I believe personally that it's the mandate of the church to do that. So bottom line is, a year later, we have a children's home. And we started a couple of homes, full-time, long-term, source of great blessing in many ways. So that's one of the things that our heart is, and it's still there. Our heart for mission, for ministry, for children. We have a children's program on a regular basis. We help kids that are destitute all the time. And then it's expanded for those kids who grow up. We realized, what about education? Because it's one of the keys to breaking poverty. And Guatemala is a very impoverished nation. And we clearly understand this, and you can see it work. The education is an absolute vital part of getting rid of poverty. So we started a Bible college, or not a Bible college, a college for kids and for young adults, teens and young adults. And so that's flourishing now. It's been around for about 6-7 years now. We also had a school, 300 kids in Nicaragua for about 10 years. And we actually handed that over to the directors. They were doing such a good job. We actually donated the whole lot of land, everything. We had a big compound there, donated it. I believe that's kingdom ministry, kingdom growth that way. Another area of ministry that we do is medical, dental, that we help. Another part of Fe Viva Ministries is just benevolent work, basically helping improve the quality of life to the people in the rural areas of Guatemala. So we have a program where we do purified, we install water filters to give them purified water. We have the smokeless stoves to get rid of the smoke inhalation that causes so much damage, so much medical problems throughout Guatemala. And so this helps eliminate that. So we have several other programs kind of along that line. And one of the newest things that we've had, which is kind of like my baby right now, and I've had this vision for many, many years, but it was such a huge project. It took a while before we could get it off the ground, and that is the new sports complex. And it's sports is another area that is a very important part of life in Guatemala, but it's also a great means of evangelism. And it's one of the areas that a lot of people, kids, youth in particular, why they get into so much trouble, why they get into gangs is because 50% of them are fatherless. It's like a fatherless society. And they have no mentors. They don't have anyone to pray with them, to give them direction, correction, to encourage them. And so we've developed some programs where we invite these young guys to come and we mentor them through sports. But myself, I was very athletic, and my coaches were a huge impact in my life. So I understood that. And so it's been flourishing. It's been doing awesome. Of course, it's been shut down for the last couple months because of the virus. But I'm missing some things. I can't remember. Maybe Pastor Terry can remember. What else are we doing?
I think you've covered it pretty well.
I know. Crusade evangelism.
Oh, yeah.
For numerous years, for as long as I can remember, we've been doing crusade evangelism. But in the last 7-8 years, we've actually upped the ante on that, and we've been doing larger crusades. where you get 5,000-10,000 people come out in a stadiums in Guatemala, and they've been just such a source of blessing. It's just incredible to see the power of God just sweep down over these thousands of people, and healing in mass, and salvation in mass to come. And working, of course, with the pastors of the communities where we have these crusades. And so that's another big part of what we do. Everything we do is Christ-centered. Everything we do, whether it's that physical assistance, physical help, it's all Christ-centered. And it all points to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And, we are the hands and the feet of Jesus. And I'm of the philosophy that if you have someone that's hungry and you say Jesus loves you, but don't feed them, it doesn't work very well. But if you feed them and then you say, this is from Jesus, it's amazing how far it goes. So, yeah.
Yeah, Kim, we can attest to the ministry that you're doing down there, you and Lynn and your staff that you have at Fe Viva. We've been able to go down the last year in February and November and see just firsthand and become a part of a short-term mission team that was there to get involved, roll up our sleeves and get involved in some of the ministry that was taking place there. Reflect back into November where we had a medical clinic actually set up. Some doctors, nurses came in. We had them checking over people that came in for various things that they had ailment of, and we were able to pass out things like vitamins and some medicines and pray for them and have medical attention given to them. So other things that we're involved in too is just with the youth ministry down there. We've seen things that were going on. We were part of the graduation ceremony for the school and for the college, and it was really an eye-opening experience to be there and see some of the stuff that you're a part of and doing down there. In this time since the pandemic started in Guatemala, can you maybe share with the audience out there some of the hardships the people are going through right now? And then how, we'll maybe turn it over to Terry later on to maybe share as a board member of Fe Viva how people can actually hands-on get involved in giving toward the ministry or in some way sending a team down or being a part of what you're doing down there. So maybe share some of the current things happening in Guatemala right now.
In North America, it's very different than much of the rest of the world. We have such a prosperous nation here, and we have a lot of infrastructure, social infrastructure, governmental infrastructure, whether we like some government or not, but it's there for us when we have times like this that are hard. And we are going through hard times here, but nothing like countries like Guatemala, where there is no infrastructure, there is no social network, there is no governmental handouts except for a bag of food in 2 months, one bag of food to the people, and that's about it. So it makes life very challenging there. The other biggest area of need right now in Guatemala is they've gone to a much more extreme and severe stance on this virus in shutting down the nation, the country, through curfew, where you're not allowed out of your house for 12 hours out of the day, and no vehicles allowed on the road whatsoever, including bicycles. That's another story. I'm not going to get into the good, bad, and the ugly on that. But if you understand, Guatemala is 60% of the nation living in rural areas, and most of them live on $300-400 a month. They don't have vehicles, so they have to rely on the little microbuses and the little tuk-tuks and the buses just to get to the market to get food. And so that has been no vehicles for 2 months. They've had it very difficult to find a means to get to buy food, even though there is food. However, in the last few weeks, it's gotten a lot worse, and that's because so many of the people in the rural areas have lost their jobs, and they live day to day as it is. So you guys have been there. You see the little wood shacks, and these guys make a few $100s a month, and they get paid, basically every week. And what they get paid, it goes to food. and they go every day to the little market to buy enough for the day, and that's usually just enough for the end of the week. But then all of a sudden they've lost their jobs, and they have no money to even buy the food, let alone get to it. So that's the plight right now, where people are literally starving. People are hungry. They're putting out white flags out on their little huts outside where they live, and it's letting people know we have no food. And so ministries like Fe Viva, and this is the cool thing about God and the kingdom of God, and the Christianity in general, is the hope of the nations. There's no other religion that I know of that's doing what Christians do, where we're looking who needs help. And so, but it's because of support like you guys, for Fe Viva, where we can buy all these quantities of food, and it's a lot of work. I commend our staff in Guatemala. That's a lot of work, people. We've done it many times, and my wife and I were doing it in March. Making thousands of bags of food hampers is tedious work, hard work, and then you go and hand out the bags of food. So I commend our guys for doing this, and that's really where it's at right now. That's what we're doing right now, is just helping keep people alive through buying large quantities of food, making the food hampers. Our community itself, we can go door to door, when we're able. But then the further communities around, it's impossible for us to do it physically. So what we've come up with is we're distributing through churches. So all the pastors in the area, we're gotten together, and we go and bring the bulk food to them, and then they distribute it to their community. And so right now we have dozens of churches that we're doing that with, and not just in our area, but also in other parts of the country. So we've been able to send food to Villanueva through Pastor Robert, whom you guys know. Yes. And through other guys up in Coban, there was some other Tecuaco and other places, communities that are like hours away, where they were just in dire need of food. And we're working with some of the local pastors there. And in that case, we're just sending the money. We know them, we trust them, we send the funds to them, and then they can buy the food there and whatever. But all in all, through this, we're being the hands and feet of Jesus, the light of the nation, the hope of the nations, which is Jesus. And that's what we're doing right now. Yeah, that's the plight of it. I could go on right now. They're even doing full lockdown, 60 hours lockdown, where people aren't allowed out of their houses, the whole country. It sounds severe, but there's even talk of it happening for 2 whole weeks. I don't know the logic of that myself, and again, I don't want to get into that part of it, because it's easy to complain. But you know what? I believe God's given us wisdom. He's given us meaning. He's given us purpose, and He's given us the ability to be the blessing. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to continue on with doing that until it's not needed anymore.
Terry, would you like to add anything as a board member? How can people get involved that are listening out there with Fe Viva? Like, how can they contribute toward the ministry, or maybe even plan to take a team, or themselves going down to Guatemala to be a part of that? Just maybe share from your experiences.
Well, if you want to have a good investment, the best investment in the world is the kingdom investment. And it's an investment it's an eternal investment where neither moth or rust can destroy. And one of my favorite ministries in the world is Fe Viva. We've been involved for like many years. When we pastored in Assiniboia, we met Kim. I can't even remember how we met. It was either through Pastor Brent or Pastor Mo. I'm not sure.
And I can't remember either.
but anyway, it's been a real blessing. You can either donate money right to the ministry, or you can take teams down to Guatemala. We've had teams go down and it's install stoves. The Stove for Life is a great project. I love that one. That's one of my favorites, because it makes such a big difference for so little of money. Mm-hmm. $300 for a stove.
Yeah, $300 American.
Yeah, 300 US. a stove, and it absolutely changes the lives of not just one individual, but of an entire family and eventually communities, because the smoke inhalation, and it's just problems we don't think of here. That was an incredible program. And how long does it take to install a stove? Like a couple hours?
An hour and a half, something like that.
I remember doing it. I can't quite remember, but
Depends how handy you are.
yeah. And they have a great team that installs those, and those water filters is another incredible thing. That absolutely, they get so many parasites and things in their systems from the water.
Basic necessity of life, and yet it's a lifesaver.
And so, if you're a pastor, you want a great place to go on a mission trip is Guatemala. It's very affordable. That's what I like about it. You know, I've been to Africa, and it's very costly to go to Africa. But Guatemala, you know, you guys have a great base to stay at. It's very safe, very good. It's just I walked around. I remember the first time I was at Guatemala, and I was walking around on the base, and I'm looking at this place, and I'm just like, 25 years ago, they bought a piece of jungle. And and turned it into this oasis in the middle of a great poverty-stricken area. And I walked around that, and I thought, wow. I said to Kim, Kim, I do not have vision like this, but I'm so glad that we can have a part of be a part of what you're doing down here, and taking teams of 5 people. What's the biggest team you've ever had?
52.
52 people.
I think is the biggest that we've had.
You can get a lot of work done.
Oh yeah.
with a group like
but
that.
They eat a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. But just, being involved, you know, a great place to go on a mission trip. Like I say, it's easy to get there. You don't need visas and all that kind of stuff, and that's big. You can donate. Go up to the website feviva.org and you can e-transfer. What's the
Kim at feviva.org. That's F-E-V-I-V-A.
Yeah, Kim at feviva.org. Great way to donate money, and like I say, if there's people that want to help out around the world, not everybody can go on a mission trip because of their work or even their health problems, health issues and stuff like that. But you can become a part of the ministry just by giving. And you may not ever get to Guatemala, but you can make a big difference in Guatemala, and a few dollars goes a long ways there.
It does. It really does. If I'll interject just briefly here, it's, you know, right now we've already given out thousands of food hampers. One food hamper costs, depending on what's in it, $10 to $15 each, and so it's not hard to take. You know, just 1,000 food hampers for 1,000 families is about $15,000. So it's not cheap to do this, but it's more than worth it. But the biggest issue is we have to keep doing it. It's not enough to give one every couple weeks or just one for the 2 months. We have to give one every 2 to 3 weeks. To maintain. So we're kind of like going around the third time now, these families and the communities, the churches. And so we continually need to raise and generate funds for this, as well as paying for our staff. I mean, these are just everyday life, and we've made a commitment. We're not going to lay anyone off. We've had where our staff has not even been able to come to work because of the issues, not being able to get on the roads or the lockdowns. So if we were a business, we'd probably lay them off, right? But we're not going to do that. We've chosen by faith to trust the Lord, and we know that He provides, and so far He has.
Yes.
So far He has, and we know that He will continue. That's called faith, trusting when you can't see it. So that's kind of what's going on right now.
Yes.
And the actual need to it.
Yeah, like I say, it's a great investment. You can't go wrong, and if you want to know what it's like, I advise you, just go on a trip. Contact Fe Viva and go down there on a mission trip, or even if you just want to go take a look. If you're an investor and you want to go look at an investment,
It is a great investment,
you
I
can't go
believe.
wrong. You can't
Yeah.
go wrong. Yeah.
You know, Pastor Perry, you've been down a few times now already as well, and you know, there's so much fruit even from the times when you come. You guys leave, but you've left a lot of seed, and the fruit continues to grow. I'll give you one cool example of that. We just actually today, and I was mentioning this to Cheryl, your wife. Was it about 2 years ago you were there, and we had to go to a remote area called Las Margaritas, and no, not Margaritaville, Las Margaritas, which is a very rural area. Perry, maybe you can describe quickly what it took just to get to this community.
Well, getting out to that community where the school was, we had a day trip planned to go to this remote school, and miscalculated, I think, the distance into the school, and even the terrain that we had to cross over, and it was quite the day, because the trip in there was not for it was survival of the fittest, basically, I would say. We had to.
We try to keep you pastors in shape.
Yeah, exactly. We came to a riverbed that we couldn't cross with the four-wheel drive. So we had to park the vehicle on the one side of the river and then walk across a makeshift bridge, a board, a plank actually, that was crossing
What's
the
your
river.
problem with that? No, that's just life for us.
So we made our way across the plank and didn't fall into the river. But then we had to walk along a stony path that was quite a long distance down this path, and the path had a lot of jagged rocks and uneven surface on it. So we had to get through there, and then we went down another pathway into the forest, and that one we walked probably for a good half an hour, and then we hit this embankment. There was like a cliff that we had to, it was kind of the final leg of the journey, we had to scale this cliff and get up to the top, and then we still had a little bit of a distance to get to the school, but on the way in there, my wife, she had a bad ankle.
Yes.
Her ankle was swelled up, and that was even before we took the trip in there. So as we got going in, we had to end up getting her a piece of wood to hold as a cane to prop her up, and then people walking with her. There was actually a police officer that helped her along the way, a big strapping young man that helped her get down the path. And so we got to the school, did the school program there, and
You forgot that we hired a horse.
Oh yes, we hired.
That was the
horse.
best part.
We hired the horse, but we finished the school program, and we're thinking, okay, Lord, how are we going to get her back out to where the vehicle is? It's a long ways back. And so as we were discussing this, lo and behold, a woman that was helping out at the school came out, and she brought this horse up from behind the building. It was a pack mule. And she offered the pack mule to Cheryl to ride to get her back to the vehicle. Well, Cheryl had never been on a horse before, a pack mule. She'd never ridden on anything like that. And right away, fear rose up inside of her. So it took a few minutes of coaxing with her to get her to the place of being willing to get on the saddle of this pack mule to take her back to where she needed to go. We finally persuaded her. She finally got on. But the pack mule was very gentle. It walked her down the trail all the way back, didn't run, didn't try to throw her or anything like that. And it was just it was a godsend
Great
to
adventure.
have that that pack mule. But the whole trip in there and time in the school was just very memorable. I mean, we have very vivid memories of it, and my wife really.
And when you say school, describe the school real quick. I mean, just give it a description.
It's not like a school you'd find in Canada or North America. The school had very little for reading materials. It was just a basic building, and we heard that when flood season comes, children have to walk in water up to their waist, basically, or cross over a raging river to get to the school. And we thought, man, this is dangerous territory here, you know, for children to be in that kind of a state to have to come to a school like that way in the backwoods. But it was an eye-opener.
Yeah.
And I just want to challenge anybody out there viewing this or listening to this time of sharing this afternoon with Kim and Terry here, that if you want a challenge in your life, I want to extend this challenge out to you, that going to Guatemala is a challenge of a lifetime that would really, I believe, bring changes to you. If you're living kind of a humdrum life right now and you want to see some adventure and excitement and do something that will impact for eternity, because the ministry down there impacts the lives of people for eternity in what is happening down there, the ministry that's taking place. And if ever there was a time now to reach into the country and help, it would be now with the hardship that they're facing down there now. So I really want to put that kind of a plug in for the assistance that is needed in the way of finances and the wherewithal to help the people within that country, because many are starving. They don't have the things that we have here in North America to prop them up and things to fall back on, because it's hand to mouth down there, and if you don't have food, well, it doesn't take long before you starve to death. So I would just encourage you strongly to consider a gift, maybe a one-time gift or a monthly gift, or even yourself planning when the airlines get flying again, to talk to Kim and Lynn and plan a trip down there.
Yeah.
If it's one or two or a whole team from a church or Bible school or wherever you're from, to take and consider that. So as we kind of wind it down now,
Just before you do
Yeah.
wind it down, I just wanted to finish that little. The reason I
Yeah.
asked you to share that
Okay.
is because of the timing of this,
Mhm.
and we were just talking about it before we came on air. But because of you got that trip, like we had been there a couple times before already as Fe Viva helping, but because of that trip and you guys going, Fe Viva now supports that school on a regular basis.
Awesome.
There was a connection there because of you guys.
Mm.
That sparked a furtherance in ministering and helping. And today, right now, Nelson and Melissa, who are my son-in-law, my daughter, and I think they bringing our beautiful little Sonia with them to deliver several food hampers for all the kids in the school. Because there's about 50, 60 families in this rural community, and you saw how rural it is and how hard it is. They have no food. They can't get food. So we're bringing it to them. It's not always an easy thing to get. It's not always what God asks us to do. Sometimes is easy, and other times it's just downright difficult. But does that mean we don't do it? Right? It's a challenge sometimes. But that's where Nelson and Melissa are right now.
That's
But they're
awesome.
there right now because you guys made a difference.
Thank you for sharing that,
Yeah.
Kim. That's really encouraging to hear that. So, Carrie, do you have anything more to add to what Kim has shared here?
Yeah, other than it's a great investment. It's a great investment, great place to go, great experience. And if you don't appreciate the nation of Canada, you should probably go down to Guatemala sometime and see what that is like. And it's just a great ministry, great fruit, very fruitful, and helps so many people over the years. It's been incredible. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Kim and Terry, I want to thank you so much for coming out today to Life Outreach and having the time of get together and fellowship here with us. And for those out there viewing, we just want to thank you for tuning in today, and hope that you'll follow up with some of the stuff that's been shared today. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you again for listening and even hearing God. If to give it, you go to feviva.org or kim@feviva.org for e-transfer. And just one last little push for you guys, because I know both of these men of God, and I know their churches. We come regularly to their churches to share. And if you're looking for a church, some of you may not have a church, not go to church, but you've been watching this. These are great places to go. Life Outreach Church and Christ the Healer Church in Saskatoon here. So thank you guys for being faithful. Thank you for giving the opportunity just to promote what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Amen.